Well, I am a new face. We need new faces in the conservative movement. It is not you don't have to be old to be conservative. There are young conservatives still. Thank God for young conservatives. I see a bunch out here. We're raising them up in the way they should go. You know, one of the pleasures of running for governor is going around the state and meeting people. I love people. I hear about candidates that don't like people. Like, how could you run for anything? You hear all sorts of stories, people struggling with complex issues, issues of marriage, issues of life, the burden of carrying a government with out-of-control spending, trying to figure out what comes first in a family's budget when someone's been laid off. Not everyone is dealing with such difficult topics. What comes first? You probably know another vexing problem that starts with that question, what comes first? Up north of Fort Dodge, I was going to Okoboji, I was going up Highway 169. A farmer was answering that question, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Anybody familiar with that? Every farmer probably has a different answer. Well, this farmer had answered the question right up there on his sign on Highway 169. It said, Sparbo Farms, where fresh eggs come first. It got me thinking, what comes first in Iowa? What comes first in the state of Iowa? Is it our families? Is it our schools? Is it our communities? And the more I thought about it, the more I said, what comes first in Iowa are our core values. Values of the heart. Sometimes we call them family values because they're passed down from generation to generation. Hard work, loyalty, integrity, a responsibility to yourself and a responsibility to the people around you, a willingness to serve. Those are the sort of core values that unify us as a state. They're the sort of values that your parents taught you. They're the sort of values that my parents taught me. So whether you're a multi-generational Iowa family or like me, the son of an immigrant, a legal immigrant, legal immigrant. Yes, he stood in line. He waited to come over. My father came out of communist China. Communism was ascending in the north. He escaped out of the south. He came from a Christian family, Christian business owners. That wasn't going to turn out real well in communist China. In 1944, he escaped, got to Hong Kong. His family was being persecuted and martyred. The martyrdom stories are not that far away from all of us, from my family, a generation away. He looked across the ocean and saw what America stood for. Freedom, responsibility, educational and economic opportunities. And he said, I want a piece of that. So he came over in 1963. He embraced the American dream. And when he came to Iowa, he eventually settled in a small Iowa town where I grew up, Underwood, Iowa. He embraced the American dream, and right here, the American dream embraced him back. I'm running for governor because I see access to that dream, what I think of as the Iowa dream, slipping further and further away from hardworking Iowa families. The dream that we can leave Iowa better for our kids than we found it, that we can pass on an economic future and a foundation of values and morality that matters. We want that for our kids, but it's slipping away under the weight of a government that no longer reflects the values of what Iowa stands for. Those are family values. I'm new, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am from Underwood, Iowa. Graduated from Underwood when I was 16. Grew up in a poor family. I sometimes say that God must love poor people because he made an awful lot of us. I was on free and reduced lunch programs as a kid. I understand that sometimes families need a helping hand. And I got that from my community. I got that from my neighbors, from teachers who saw something in me beyond what my parents could see or what I could see. Kids know what it means to be poor. That is not a foreign concept to a child. In second grade, I understood for the first time what it meant to be poor. The free and reduced lunch cards were a different color for the lunch program, and every time you'd pull it out to go have lunch, you were admitting to your classmates that I'm poor. And so I stopped eating lunch. Second grader. How many here have had a second grader? Look, you can't last 30 minutes without food at that age. At least my 7-year-old can't. But Mrs. Conway, my second grade teacher, saw that I was not eating lunch. She pulled me aside. She said, "Christian, don't be ashamed of who you are." I don't know whether she meant my poor background, my immigrant family background. She said, "If you're not going to eat lunch, you tell me, I'll get you a sandwich." And so I got through the rest of second grade on the graces of Mrs. Conway giving me peanut butter sandwiches every afternoon. I still can't eat a peanut butter sandwich. I just can't do it. But that's what I was about. I was about our communities embracing those in need. The greatest solutions to our problems in Iowa are coming from the communities themselves. They're coming from families themselves. They're not coming from Des Moines and the state government. I graduated from Underwood High when I was 16. I walked bean fields as a kid, framed houses, did the sort of things we wouldn't let our kids do, hold machetes in farm fields. Are you kidding? I went to Creighton University. I graduated when I was 19 and went east to Cedar Rapids, where I met my wife. My wife Janelle is from Decorah, a sweet Norwegian gal. We have 3 kids. I went into business. I'm an executive at Aegon. Put my career on pause and went to Dartmouth College, where I got my MBA. I came back to Iowa, not only to raise my family. It's a great place to raise a family. We know that. But I came back to Iowa because I believe that Iowa's future is to be the great economic engine of the Midwest. As an Ivy League trained economist, I know that about Iowa. It's why I came back. I want to guide Iowa into that future. But I want to guide Iowa into more than that, because what does it matter if our kids have jobs but they don't have a moral culture to support their growth and my kids' growth and my grandkids' growth? We do something about that in Iowa. It's called leadership, not politics. At the community level, we choose to lead. Over the past year, we had this little event in Cedar Rapids, where I now live. You might have heard of it. It was a little flood that we had. I was in the Emergency Operations Center when the flood hit, and I founded an organization called Corridor Recovery. I need to get that bio, not a food relief agency. That would be for my cooking. A flood relief agency that I led. Providing real leadership. It's the sort of experience, people ask, what sort of experience do you have? It's 13 years in the private sector, making tough decisions, providing real leadership to real problems for my community. That's my background. It's a sort of experience that Des Moines needs more of, don't you think? People that have understood what it means to make a tough decision, what it means to sit around as a family and talk about